The most surprising thing about crows so far has been their ability to recognize and remember particular people, and even just particular faces. That's been really surprising to me. I always knew they were smart. I always knew they could learn from trial and error because they're tough to catch a second time.
What if the birds watching you from that telephone wire understand far more about you than you'll ever understand about them? Scientists in Spain just used artificial intelligence to decode over 150,000 crow vocalizations, and what they discovered has researchers questioning everything we thought we knew about animal intelligence. But here's what's really unsettling. The study didn't just reveal how crows communicate. It exposed something far more uncomfortable about humans, about our assumptions, about our arrogance, about the fact that we've been sharing this planet with creatures whose cognitive abilities rival our own, and we never bothered to listen. What AI revealed about crows is shocking, but what it revealed about us might be terrifying. The sounds we never heard. In northern Spain, there's a population of carrion crows that behaves differently from crows anywhere else in the world. While most crows live alone or in pairs, these Spanish crows do something unusual. They stay home with their parents for up to 4 years, helping raise new siblings and defending the family territory together. It's cooperative living on a scale rarely seen in birds. Researchers Daniela Canestrari and Vittorio Baglione at the University of Leon wanted to understand how these crows coordinated such complex social behavior. They suspected the answer was in their communication, so they attached tiny biologgers equipped with microphones and movement sensors to the birds' tail feathers. Then they started recording everything. Every sound the crows made throughout their daily lives. The devices captured 150,000 vocalizations. That's not 150,000 caws. That's 150,000 distinct sounds. The researchers quickly realized something shocking. Humans have been listening to crows for thousands of years, but we've only been hearing the loud, obvious caws. The biologgers revealed a vast array of softer, more nuanced sounds that would typically go unnoticed by the human ear. Sounds so quiet and subtle that without the microphones attached directly to the birds, nobody would ever know they existed. Canestrari admitted something important. She said they couldn't really process all this information without artificial intelligence. The sheer volume of data, the complexity of the patterns, the subtlety of the variations between sounds was too much for human analysis. So they turned to AI tools created by the Earth Species Project, including a neural network called voxaboxen. The AI began categorizing the sounds into distinct vocal groups, not just loud versus soft, but different types of calls with different purposes. By pairing these sounds with data from accelerometers that track the birds' movements and video footage of their behaviors, the researchers started mapping out something extraordinary: a language. Not metaphorically, an actual communication system with structure, context, and meaning. Here's where it gets uncomfortable for humans. For centuries, we've dismissed animal sounds as instinct, simple reactions to stimuli, fear calls, mating calls, territory warnings. We assumed that because we couldn't understand the sounds, there wasn't much to understand. The AI revealed we were wrong, very wrong. What 17 years of grudges taught us. While the Spanish researchers were recording vocalizations, on the other side of the world, a different team had been conducting an experiment that would change how we think about crows forever. In 2006, Professor John Marsloff at the University of Washington in Seattle put on a scary rubber mask, captured 7 crows, tagged them with leg bands, and released them. It was a standard procedure for bird research, but what happened next wasn't standard at all. Years later, whenever Marsloff wore that same mask and walked around campus, crows would scold him aggressively. Not just the birds he'd captured, dozens of crows. Birds that had never been trapped. birds that hadn't even been born yet when the original trapping occurred. Marsluff recalled one incident where 47 out of 53 crows he encountered vehemently scolded him while he wore the threatening mask. The study lasted for years, and the reaction only intensified. Close to 7 years after the experiment began, crows continued to harangue the mask, even though they only saw it twice a year for a few hours at a time. Even more remarkable, the percentage of birds joining the scolding had roughly doubled since the experiment began. Information about this dangerous face was being passed down through crow generations. To confirm what was happening, the researchers used a neutral mask based on Dick Cheney's face. People wearing the Cheney mask fed the crows without causing them distress. The crows never reacted negatively to it. Then they had unknowing volunteers wear both masks. The volunteers had no idea which mask was categorized as dangerous by the crows, but the crows knew. They always knew. They could distinguish between the two faces and reacted accordingly. Here's what makes this discovery terrifying for humans. Based on this study and others like it, researchers now believe crows can remember human faces for up to 17 years. That's longer than many mammals can remember. That's longer than most humans could recognize someone they briefly met once. And crows aren't just remembering. They're forming complex emotional associations, making judgments about character and intent, and transmitting that information culturally to other crows who will never meet the person but will still know to avoid them. Brain scans of crows viewing threatening versus caring faces revealed something even more unsettling. The regions of the crow brain that activate when seeing a known human face are analogous to the amygdala and other structures in the mammalian brain. The same neural pathways that humans use to recognize faces and associate them with emotions are present in crows. Their brains light up in similar patterns to ours when processing social information about individuals. The intelligence we refuse to see. Here's where the AI research and the facial recognition studies converge into something that should make humans deeply uncomfortable. We've been sharing cities, farms, and forests with creatures that possess sophisticated language, complex social structures, long-term memory, cultural transmission of knowledge, and emotional intelligence. And for thousands of years, we treated them like they were basically flying rats. When the AI analyzed those 150,000 vocalizations from the Spanish crows, it found patterns that suggested the birds were coordinating tasks through vocal communication. They were discussing who would defend the nest, who would clean it, who would care for the chicks. They were problem-solving together. They were teaching younger birds the ropes. All through a communication system so complex that only machine learning could begin to decode it. Other studies have shown that crows use tools, solve multi-step puzzles, understand water displacement, and even engage in what appears to be play behavior. They've been observed dropping nuts onto busy roads and waiting for cars to crack them open. They've fashioned hooks from twigs to fish food out of hard-to-reach places. They hold what researchers call crow funerals, gathering around dead members of their species in what appears to be a form of social learning about danger. African savanna elephants and common marmoset monkeys have been found to bestow names on their companions using AI-assisted analysis of their vocalizations. Whales have been shown to have dialects that vary by region and pod. Bonobos display communication complexity that approaches human language. The more scientists use AI to decode animal communication, the more they discover that we've been surrounded by intelligence we refuse to acknowledge. But here's what's really terrifying about this for humans. It's not that crows are intelligent. It's that we didn't want to know they were intelligent, because acknowledging their intelligence would have required us to fundamentally change how we treat them, how we structure our cities, how we think about property and space, and whose needs matter. Marsluff noted something particularly revealing in his research. He said that given the variability of human behavior, the crow's skill at telling us apart helps explain why the bird thrives in cities. Translation: crows have succeeded in human environments not despite our presence, but because they've become experts at reading us. They've learned to categorize humans into dangerous, neutral, and beneficial. They've learned our patterns, our habits, our intentions. They've adapted to us far more successfully than we've adapted to them. What the AI revealed about human assumptions. When researchers first started using AI to analyze animal communication, they encountered resistance from other scientists, from funding bodies, from the general public. The pushback always came down to the same assumption: animals don't really have language. They make sounds, sure, but those sounds don't carry the complexity, the intentionality, the depth of meaning that human language does. The AI didn't care about those assumptions. It just analyzed patterns, and the patterns it found demolished the foundation of human exceptionalism. Early results from the Earth Species Project showed something remarkable. There's positive domain transfer from human speech to animal communication. In plain language, that means the same AI models that decode human language can be applied to animal vocalizations because there are shared structures. The building blocks of communication, the ways that sounds combine to create meaning, the patterns that emerge when social creatures need to coordinate behavior, these elements appear across species. Nature LM Audio, the world's first large audio language model for bioacoustics, can be trained on large data sets and learn foundational representations of bioacoustic signals. Whether studying birds or whales or jumping spiders, the AI helps researchers automatically detect, classify, and find new patterns in massive unlabeled data sets. It's generalizable across species because communication itself follows certain universal principles. This is what's terrifying about the AI findings. It's not revealing that crows have developed some strange alien intelligence. It's revealing that crows have intelligence that operates on similar principles to ours, that their brains solve similar problems in similar ways, that the gap between human and crow cognition isn't a chasm, it's a spectrum, and crows are a lot closer to our end of that spectrum than we ever wanted to admit. When Canistrari talked about the Spanish crow research, she said they think the crows must coordinate with vocal communication to complete their cooperative tasks. That sentence should give us pause. She's describing crows the way you'd describe a human team working on a project, coordinating, communicating, completing tasks together. The only difference is the sounds they make while doing it. Researchers caution that we're not close to talking to animals in the near future, but understanding their vocalizations could guide conservation efforts, helping humans make better decisions about how to share space with other species. Translation: if we understood what crows were saying, if we could decode their warnings about environmental threats, their discussions about food scarcity, their teaching methods for young birds, we might finally be forced to treat them as the intelligent beings they are. The uncomfortable truth about human exceptionalism. Here's what scientists using AI to decode crow sounds found about humans, and it is genuinely terrifying. We're not nearly as special as we thought we were. The traits we've used for centuries to separate ourselves from other animals, to justify our dominance over nature, to excuse our destruction of habitats and extinction of species, those traits aren't unique to us. Complex language, crows have it. Long-term memory, 17 years for individual faces. Social transmission of cultural knowledge, they teach their children which humans are dangerous across multiple generations. Emotional intelligence, they recognize human emotions and adjust their behavior accordingly. Tool use and problem solving, they're better at some tasks than young children. Coordinated cooperation for complex goals. The Spanish crows are building entire social systems around it. The AI revealed something that human researchers bound by their own cognitive biases, might never have seen. When you strip away our assumptions about what communication should sound like, when you let a machine analyze the patterns without preconceptions about what's possible, you discover that the natural world is far richer, far more complex, far more intelligent than we've been willing to acknowledge. And here's the part that should keep us up at night. We've known for decades that crows were smart. People have been reporting strange crow behavior for generations. The ancient Romans considered crows prophetic. Indigenous cultures around the world have stories about crow intelligence. But Western science, trapped in a framework that prioritized human uniqueness, dismissed these observations as anthropomorphism or folklore. We had the data. We had the observations. We chose not to see what they meant because seeing would have been inconvenient. It would have complicated our agricultural practices, our urban planning, our pest control methods, our entire relationship with the natural world. It's easier to kill a pest than to negotiate with a neighbor. And that's what the crow research really reveals about humans. We'd rather maintain our comfortable position at the top of the intelligence hierarchy than confront the reality that we share this planet with beings whose cognitive capabilities demand our respect. Marsloff's research found that crows can be trained to avoid certain behaviors by associating them with negative experiences. He suggested this could be used to stop crows from preying on endangered species like desert tortoises or snowy plovers. But read between the lines of that suggestion, he's describing crows as creatures capable of learning, adapting, and changing their behavior based on new information. Creatures that can be reasoned with, in a sense. That's not pest behavior, that's intelligent behavior. The fact that we've used our superior technology to create AI that can decode animal language, only to discover that the language was there all along, sophisticated and complex and right in front of us, should be humbling. Instead, the predominant reaction has been to marvel at the AI's capability rather than to confront what the AI revealed about our blindness. What happens when we finally listen? In February 2025, researchers published another update on the crow communication study. They're now hoping to one day understand the meaning of the bird's vocalizations and perhaps even try to speak their language. Scientists are seriously discussing the possibility of having actual two-way communication with another species, not commanding, not training, but conversing. The implications go beyond crows. The Earth Species Project's work has revealed that the Hawaiian crow, which became extinct in the wild in 2002, may have lost parts of its vocal repertoire in captivity. Researchers are investigating whether the two captive breeding populations have developed different dialects that could affect reintroduction success. We could accidentally destroy a species' ability to communicate with each other, to pass down essential knowledge, and not realize we'd silenced entire societies until it's too late. This technology is forcing uncomfortable questions into the open. If AI proves that crows maintain complex social bonds, teach cultural knowledge across generations, and coordinate through sophisticated language, then our current treatment of them as pests or property becomes ethically indefensible. We can't unhear what the AI has revealed. Some cities are already responding. Seattle, where the facial recognition study took place, has seen shifts in urban planning discussions. Conversations about preserving crow roosting sites. Debates about pesticide use that acknowledge crows as stakeholders, not just collateral damage. Portland has started pilot programs where researchers work with parks departments to identify areas where crow families nest, attempting to schedule tree maintenance around their breeding cycles. Tokyo has implemented feeding guidelines that recognize crows as permanent urban residents rather than temporary nuisances to be eliminated. These are small steps, but they represent a fundamental shift in thinking. For the first time, municipal governments are making policy decisions that treat crows as intelligent beings with rights to space and resources, not just problems to be managed. The AI research provided the scientific backing that advocates needed to push for these changes. The technology itself is spreading rapidly. Researchers are applying similar AI models to study whales, elephants, primates, even insects. A team in Norway is analyzing orca vocalizations. Scientists in Kenya are decoding elephant rumbles that travel for miles through the ground. Primatologists are revisiting decades of recorded chimpanzee calls with new AI tools. Each study reveals similar patterns: complexity we missed, intelligence we dismissed, communication systems we never bothered to decode. What's emerging is a picture of Earth far different from the one humans have been operating under. We're not the only intelligent species. We're not even the only species with language and culture. We're just the only species that developed technology capable of proving what indigenous peoples and careful observers have known for millennia. The natural world is full of minds, societies, and conversations. We've been too loud, too self-absorbed, and too convinced of our own uniqueness to notice. The ethical implications are staggering. Legal scholars are already debating whether animals with proven complex communication should have some form of legal personhood. Environmental lawyers are exploring whether destroying a crow's territory could be considered cultural genocide if we can prove the birds maintain place-based knowledge systems. Animal rights activists are pushing for new frameworks that account for species-specific needs and cognitive capabilities. Rather than treating all animals as a monolithic category beneath humans, here's what's genuinely terrifying about all of this. We now have the tools to understand other species. The AI works, the methods are proven, the data is undeniable. The only question remaining is whether we have the moral courage to act on what we've learned. Because understanding crow language means accepting that we've been catastrophically wrong about them for thousands of years. It means restructuring laws, changing policies, rethinking property rights, reconsidering what we owe to other intelligences sharing our planet. It means admitting that intelligence isn't a uniquely human trait, and neither is society, culture, or complex communication. That admission threatens foundational assumptions about human exceptionalism that have justified everything from factory farming to habitat destruction to the treatment of animals as legal property. If crows have language, culture, and long-term memory comparable to ours, then what moral framework allows us to poison them when they eat our garbage? What logic permits us to destroy their nesting trees because they're inconvenient? The Spanish researchers, Canestrari and Baglione, have spent years with these crow families. They've watched parents teach their children, siblings cooperate on complex tasks, and multi-generational groups coordinate through vocalizations we're only beginning to understand. They describe the birds with the same language they'd use for human communities. And increasingly, other scientists are doing the same across different species. The crows have been watching us far longer than we've been watching them. The question isn't whether they're capable of coexisting with us. They've proven they are. The question is whether we're capable of coexisting with them as neighbors with legitimate claims to space and resources, rather than as subordinates whose needs only matter when convenient for humans. What the AI found about crows is remarkable. What it revealed about human blindness is sobering, but what matters now is what comes next. What are your thoughts about these discoveries? Share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. For more exposed discoveries like this, be sure to click on the next video that pops up on your screen. You never know what you'll discover next.